pure fabulous. I just need to push a couple of other buttons. So let me do that. Let me get a bit further back from that camera because that's a bit close for first thing in the morning. How are you, my fabulous people? Hope you are wonderful. Wonderful. I want to talk about, kind of as a follow-on from, can I grow in this tough market? I want to talk about the follow-on from that is, can you live with the downside? And I think when you're in business and you are someone who likes to take risks and you're always looking for the new idea and the new thing and the new way to grow, we're quite good. We're quite good at being very optimistic. And so we can see all the good things that could potentially happen. And we can go, well, when this works, this will happen. I'll land that new client, or I'll get these new customers in the door, or I'll have these 3 amazing new employees. So we can really always perceive how it could be great when we take this action. But what we struggle with a little bit is, what's the downside? And I think often the flip side of this is that we get stuck in the what ifs. So we want to think about, can I live with the downside? So if I ask this client, if I put this proposal out, if I hire these 2 new employees, if we bring on 4 new customers, what's the downside? Or what's the worst case scenario in terms of what could go wrong here? So if we're pitching a proposal to someone, to, let's say, a big customer, a big client, someone that we haven't worked with before, but we're really excited to have them come on board and be part of our business, what's the downside? Well, the downside is that you put all this time and effort into this proposal, into this joint venture, into this partnership opportunity, and they say no. And my question is always, can you live with that? Can you live with that downside piece of it didn't go well? If you are signing up, let's say you are like, I'm going to expand in this market. I'm going to take on this new lease. We're going to move to a bigger premises. I'm like, cool. So the downside is with this one is, if you sign a lease, I'm going to make the maths easy for me. Let's say you sign a lease for $100,000 a year. It's quite a big lease. $100,000 a year, and you've signed up to it for 3 years with a right of renewal for 3 more. So a 3x3 lease, not uncommon to see. The downside here is, if you get in there and it doesn't work, you are on the hook for 100,000 times 3, $300,000 plus probably some side expenses. So you're probably on the hook for some outgoings in terms of power and rates and insurance. So can you live with the downside of that not going well? Now, I think it's unlikely that you're going to take a bath on the 100% of the lease and the outgoings. But that's the downside. That's the reality of, if I get in here and this doesn't work, I don't make this a great decision by doing the work and getting a great outcome, then the downside is I've got that cost. So some decisions that we're making, some decisions that we're procrastinating on or we're putting off because the downside is limited, but we haven't asked what it is. So we're like, it's a lot of work and I'm really worried about doing it. And then they might say no. So that's the downside when I'm putting a proposal out to a great, big, amazing new client. And then the flip side of that is, sometimes we don't look at the downside when it's a big investment and the commitment that if it does go wrong is going to cause us some financial challenges. And so then when I move on from that, so we talk about them as fatal and non-fatal decisions. This is a bit morbid, but the reality is, for most of us in business, people aren't going to die when we make these decisions. I used to remind myself of this many, many times when we had hospitality business, and someone will get really upset about a steak not being cooked the wrong way, or someone not giving them a wine in just the right moments. Now, obviously, we want to aspire to provide great customer service, but at the same time, the energy that I want to put into some bad feedback, I want to look at it, I want to fix the problem, I want to move on. And so we get really heat up about it, and I always say, no one's going to die. So it's a non-fatal decision. In fact, we kind of weigh it like this. We look at it and go, if it wouldn't take a lot of time, energy, or money to get back to where we were before we made the decision, then that's a non-fatal decision. And so we should make the decision and move pretty quickly so that we can get in there, make the decision, lay out what's working and what's not working, tweak it, and keep going, or kill it dead, right? So when you've got an idea in your business, it might be some sort of social media or marketing strategy, or it might be an advertising campaign. You want to get in there, do it, put it out in the marketplace, see if it works, take the information out, like get the data, get the numbers, get the information, and go, did that work or did it not work? If it didn't work, kill it really fast. If it did work, how are we going to tweak it, scale it, make it better? So that's an example of a really non-fatal decision, something with low downside. Can I live with the downside? And then the other frame that I like to put over it is, is it going to matter? Will it matter in 3 hours, 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years, 30 years? Because so much of the stuff that we are worrying about and not making a decision on is actually long term isn't going to impact you. The downside, you can live with it. It's a non-fatal decision. The downside's livable. It's a non-fatal decision. Actually, you are creating more weight, more decision, more overwhelm by not taking action and holding on to the decision. The unmade decision is much heavier than a made decision that you've taken action on. So if you're looking at your business right now and going, no, there's a few things here that I'm like, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what I should do here. Sometimes checking in on those things. Can I live with the downside? Is this a fatal or non-fatal decision? And will it matter 3 hours, 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years, 30 years from now? And I would suggest that many, many of the things that we put off in our business won't matter. Won't matter even 3 hours from now, never mind 3 weeks from now. And the things that are a little heavier, the things that will matter a little further into the future, you want to give them some consideration and make some well-informed decisions around them. But fundamentally, if you can live with the downside, then you're going to look at it and go, okay, how do we move forward? We could talk all day about how do we mitigate the downside, but that's going to be one for another day. So I'm interested. What's something that you're putting off that you can look at right now and go, can I live with the downside? And then go take action and live with the downside. Because many, many, many times when I work with my clients, the reason they're putting something off is they're worried about what someone will say or someone will think. And they're worried about getting the no. And as I say to them all the time, nobody died from being told no, including my child when she was 2 and she was told no to a chocolate ice cream. She was okay. She lived, and you will live too.